Hello, everybody, and welcome to Connection and Conversations. Human connection is the most powerful, immune-boosting, health-promoting tool that you have. And it's what you're all missing right now. And I'm delighted you're joining us today or watching us on replay. And please put hashtag replay if you are, because today I get to connect and chat with this gorgeous lady, Katie Murphy. Hey, Katie.
Thank you. Hello.
A lot of the focus of my work currently is on training people in small groups and on one-to-one to grow their own mental fitness. And your mental fitness is your capacity to handle the challenges of life with a positive mindset rather than a default of frustration and being annoyed or getting upset, because life is challenging. And 100% positivity, whilst potentially achievable, is probably not realistic. But the science shows us that 75% of the time we can feel good. We can feel good about ourselves and good about lives. And I think that's amazing. And I get to connect with my clients through conversation with a purpose, where I provide a strategy for people to use for their own well-being. And one aspect of the work that you do, Katie, that we have in common is that we both have studied Chinese medicine and we both practice acupuncture. But our practice has been challenged as a result of the pandemic. But the really good part of that is that it has opened up how we work. So I am really looking forward to hearing Katie explain to you guys how she connects with the people that she works with through her work. So Katie, please tell everyone what you are currently doing.
Well, I think, like you said, during COVID, the way I treated people, say March 2020, changed dramatically, literally overnight. It was actually Friday the 13th. I'll never forget it. And we were in a really busy clinic and I was treating people back to back to back. And there was 10 of us in there. And then COVID came along and wiped that out. But in a strange way, as you said, there are a huge amount of positives to take from that, because when I got over the whole shock and the disorientation of where my business had become and where it had literally gone, I decided, you know what, let's look at ways of reaching out to people online, because you are very limited when you are working in the clinic, because only certain people can come to you, basically, that they travel to us. But you then have this amazing freedom to really open up the gifts that we have, you and I. And so I suppose for me, I sort of sat down and said, okay, let's do this. Let's get all the gifts that you love and perhaps haven't had the time to give them the energy they deserved, and put them on a platform that people from anywhere in the world can actually reach out and get a taste for Chinese medicine. But also what I'm doing is I'm bringing in other elements. So I'm bringing in the essential oils, my aromatherapy gift, which I haven't really used for years, other than just in the clinic, putting in lovely smells in each room. And then the crystals, which I'm so passionate about. And all those three elements came in together. And I'm really proud of what I've created, because it took a lot of time and it took a lot of energy, but it all flowed. And when something flows for me, I know I'm on the right path. And so, yes, it was very, we had to adapt. We all had to adapt. And for the first lockdown, we weren't allowed to treat people physically. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to go, okay, let's change, let's adapt. I love adapting. I love change. I embrace it. I always have done. So it was a really great time for me to kind of go, okay, let's do something totally different. Let's introduce people to acupressure, because we stick needles in all the time and we're telling people about meridians and their energy. But the wonderful thing about acupressure is that A, they can do it at home in the comfort of their own home when it suits them. And B, it really gets them to learn to listen to their bodies. And like you said, and I really agree with you on this, Sinead, our emotional health is absolutely vital for our physical health to be performing well. So they interact. It's like yin and yang. They need to work together. And so, like you said, it's all about that. My work, I suppose, over the last year has really been introducing people to using acupressure, introducing people to the wonders of essential oils, not only as like antiviral, but also for their emotional health and how amazing they can be. And then the crystal element, and using an acu wand instead of their fingers, if they wanted to try that, to really get the energy in balance. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to for the last year, which has flown by. So yeah, here we are in March again. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny, did you, well, for me, it was, okay, well, what can I do that's part of my work? What aspects of my work do I love? Because what you're saying about ease and flow, and it's getting creative about the work that you're actually doing, so that it feels, when it feels right, when it feels right, what connects with people. And that's such a huge part of when we work with acupuncture, or in my case, Chinese herbs, or you're using aromatherapy, and it's so, people are unique, and to be able to do something like to give somebody, an aromatherapy, I guess prescription, I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but if you're giving somebody something that is going to be really helpful for them, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, it totally is, and I really enjoyed that time. And it's the aromatherapy is the way that people on the online, they put in what they want it to do, and it can be anything from insomnia to anxiety, which is a huge one at the moment. Pregnancy support, because that's a huge vulnerability there. There's lack of support because they just cannot have it. So they put down what they want, and I literally sit in my beautiful room and just choose which oils work together, and there's a beautiful science in it. And it is, and I just absolutely love that. And so yes, like you said, because I'm passionate about that, and because I know it really works, and the feedback has been incredible, and you know how that feels when you get someone telling you that it has worked, and you're just like, this is brilliant, because it is effortless in a way for them. I think, maybe I could be wrong, but I think what we were focusing on too much for people as therapists is we were becoming the person that healed them. And I'm really about people learning that they can heal their bodies themselves through their emotions, but also through, things like this, very simple techniques. And isn't it great that COVID has given us that opportunity to for people to explore online what's out there, but also looking outside and really connecting with nature, which is my other massive passion. And people realizing that just going outside for 5 minutes and listening to, for now, the spring bird song is incredible. Absolutely. It makes a difference. Yeah. It costs nothing.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, when you're speaking about nature, and I'm in the middle of a city, so you go out at nighttime now and there's silence, and it's just so beautiful. I grew up in the middle of the country, and that was the norm, and here and I love it. I'm really loving it. And I don't want to say, oh, well, when everything goes back to normal, that noise will be all back. That's not how I'm looking at it. It's just right now, it's absolutely beautiful. And even going out into your back garden at nighttime and just experiencing that silence, and it's just so lovely. It really, and that makes it, even just small things like that make a difference to your health. And looking for all the things that we have that we can be grateful for. We're so lucky in this country. I'm really grateful that we live here. So Katie, can you just so you've come from the UK? And did you train in the UK, or did you train in Ireland, or a bit of both? Or?
So I did a bit of both, actually. I started, my aromatherapy, I was thinking, how long have I been doing this? I started that course at 19. I didn't go to university. I was meant to, and I did a year out as a nanny. And the lady that I was working for was the most incredible physical therapist. And she was also a teacher of aromatherapy, massage therapy, everything, Reiki. So I did all those with her. Actually, from 19 onwards, I dropped my place in agricultural university, and I just went on this track. And during the aromatherapy treatment work, that when I was studying, they kept going on about acupuncture, and I was like, oh, that sounds incredible. I there's so much, it's so vast. to learn. So I started over there, and then I moved over to Ireland in 2000, I think 2001, and I started my acupuncture training properly there. And then I went to Shanghai to do my postgraduate, and I'm really glad I did that aspect, because that was just like the icing on the cake. I learned more probably in that short space of time than I did throughout the whole of my studies, because it was real life. They threw us into the deep end, and as you know, it's totally different over there, but it's a beautiful art, and it's treated that way. And I just, that was, for me, that was just everything. And I brought that back into Clonmel, and it took over. Irish people are incredibly open, and I love that.
Yes.
They are very trusting in natural therapies as well, because I think, like you said, I mean, half of me is Irish, half of me is English, but I think we tend to be more connected here. I could be wrong, but I think there's a real element of nature in us all. And I think that gives us the openness that you need just to give something a go, and then you realize how powerful it is, and then you don't ever need to question yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ireland is so lucky to have you, and Clonmel, which is where I'm from originally. So how lucky you are in Clonmel. I hope you know it.
Well, I love Clonmel. I love the people here, and like you said, we have such beauty. I'm lucky I live on a mountain, and I just can walk up the path literally, and I have the most incredible view, and the trees and the forest, and I know how lucky I am. But I think a lot of people during lockdown suddenly realized how lucky they were, depending on where you lived. I mean, it was completely different for a lot of people. But it was just, everybody was starting to wake up a little bit, I think, and say, oh wow, there's more to life than work. There's more to life than this 9 to 5 pressure. If you're busy, you're really good. If you're busy, you're really successful. Total rubbish. We all 100% got a big kick up the bum and realized that isn't the way forward, in my opinion anyway. And I think a lot of people can agree with me on that.
I mean, it's so important to have a sense of purpose, but when your sense of purpose gets lost in thinking, that working, I guess, I don't know, in the corporate world, getting all the way up that ladder, and then suddenly you're really, really successful. And I've had people in front of me like this, and suddenly they're very sick, and suddenly they're reassessing their lives, and they're thinking, how did I let this happen? My sense of purpose when I was younger, when I was, okay, when we're younger, we dream big, but why do we stop doing that? And where did our value system shift? And I think that's another really great thing that's come out of COVID, that people are reassessing and thinking, well, what exactly is important here?
Totally.
What do I want in my life? And what are the amazing things that I have around me? Because there are, and I think people are seeing that more, how lucky we all actually are, even though everybody's frustrated at the moment, because obviously we want our lives back to normal as much as possible. Can I go back to, you said you were going to study agriculture, which is really interesting because you're doing something else now in your life. Can you just tell people a bit about that?
So I have a lovely partner, and we share very similar passions, which is fab, obviously, but he has a farm up the road. And we were talking, nothing was there. It was literally a blank canvas. And we kept saying to ourselves, look, in a few years we'll develop this, and we want to become self-sufficient. And we have children. I have 2 and he has a daughter, and we wanted the children to understand the whole concept of community, but also that you become self-sufficient, that we grow the vegetables that we eat, that we also rear the animals, that the children, if they choose to eat meat, that they will have that. But they'll also know that everything they have eaten has the best life possible, be it a plant or an animal, and engaging them in that. Now, that was meant to be in maybe a year or two's time, but when March hit, we both sat down and said, well, what are we waiting for? Let's do this. And it was incredible, because I just went straight into it. And I've always had animals. I've always been someone that's been worked very hard on using with horses, everything. So it was bringing that element back that I'd probably forgotten about. And so I think we got chickens first, and then we got ducks, and then we got sheep, and they're rare breeds. I really wanted to focus on rare breed animals so that I could bring that out a little bit more. And then we got cows, And yeah, it's grown from there. So, and pigs, they were really hard work. Don't get pigs.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's
it's just been brilliant.
incredible.
And it was very physically hard work.
Yes.
Really, like we did everything on our own. But the brilliant thing was we had no money, so we bartered for things, and that is where I love, because it's bringing the community around us. We had such wonderful neighbours, and we were bartering with them for different things. So every tool that, like everything was borrowed, or yeah, that's just was fab. So that's where we're at. But also with that, where it comes in with the acupuncture and that side of things is I'm doing social farming in when COVID, when we are allowed to do that. And that's really working with people that have either physical disabilities or mental health issues. And they come on the farm and they just have a fabulous time connecting with the animals, helping with the vegetables, seeing something grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I was so happy to be able to open up. And that is a work in progress. That's not going to happen soon, but in hopefully in the year or two coming up, we're going to really get that going. The kids have really enjoyed that, and that was their lockdown. We didn't have iPads or anything. They were shoved up on the farm, and they kind of had to help, you know. So I'm not sure they 100% enjoyed that all the time, but they had to do most of it. But yeah, we had chicks, for example, and the kids watched an egg becoming something. It became life, and that was just magic, I think, you know.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny because I grew up and in that type of environment, and you just take so much for granted. But
Yeah.
and then I lived in London for a good few years, and I used to go up to my aunt. My aunt had a farmhouse, and she just kept sheep because she worked in London during the week. And being able to be there and watch those sheep being born, just amazing. And I know that, well, to some people that might sound, oh, for crying out loud, but it is absolutely incredible when you see life being born.
Yeah, 100%.
I was working as a nurse, you know, it's obviously humans I'm dealing with. And it is the most incredible experience. And it brings you, you know, it just kind of, I suppose, shows you the value of life, and that we have to look after it, and that we have to, you know, and it teaches kids, what you're doing teaches kids responsibility and empathy. And empathy is probably one of the biggest things for other creatures. And but they're also getting reality because, you know, oh, well, I don't know if, well, you're saying it's a farm to food in some
Yeah,
cases.
no, it's field to fork. That was something we talked about. And we one day, for example, we had loads of chickens at the beginning, and the kids got one. My daughter got very attached to one chicken, and I never forget. I was doing Zooms online, and I had a phone call from Declan, and I knew something bad had happened by his voice. And sure enough, a fox, which is nature, it's life. We chose to be free range, had taken them out, and obviously, telling my daughter was really hard, but it's made her realize that things do change. Cycle of life is real. You cannot hide from it. It happens. And from an early age, getting it hit, because we had a few of those episodes, you know, and animals do get sick, as do humans. And it's about learning to feel that and then letting it go. And they're getting brilliant at the real empathy. And then what I tried to teach them afterwards, because I found it quite hard. When you do get attached, I get attached to anything, like animal wise. I love my dogs, oh my God, they're like my children. But I think they did learn a huge lot. We all did. We all learned that you know, it is life, and it can be tough sometimes, but then you have to look at the incredible things you get from it. So we gave those hens the best life they had for the time that they had on this earth, and that's the way I looked at it.
And I think that kind of work that you're doing makes a huge difference to a practitioner, because it makes you very real, you know, very down to earth. I mean, literally, we're working with the earth. So it makes you very grounded, and well, this is how I would perceive it.
Yeah.
And when you're working with people and real emotion, and because people oftentimes feel weak, they display any kind of emotion, or they have an opinion that they think they'll be judged by, and a lot of people live in a lot of fear as a result. So being able to work with somebody who then says, you know, it's okay, you know, it's okay, you don't need, I'm not judging you, you don't need to judge you, let's just talk, let's just connect. And you can actually even do that online. And please watch Katie in her videos, because I think it reminds me of that program when I went to the UK, because I was in London, I was in the middle of the city. I used to listen to the Archer, which is about a family of farmers. You know, kind of like, I don't know, from years ago, Bracken or the all that kind of stuff. And but for me, it was just and so watch Katie, because it's kind of, even if you're living in the city, I think it's actually really nice. It's just lovely. Just to, especially if you're feeling a bit isolated at the moment, because Katie's videos, she, you know, she's very honest, and she keeps it real, and I love that about your work, and you as a person. So
thank you. Well, I don't believe, I think we have to be real. What's the point of being anything other than our true selves? And I think for me, as I get older, I'm learning that I don't care if people judge, or that is their issue, that is not mine. I'm just going to do everything I can to be my best self and to enjoy life. And I think we take life way too seriously. I am totally, that's me. And I have to remind myself sometimes, just lighten up, woman, and just take life a little less seriously, and stop being so judgmental on yourself as a mum or as a therapist. Just go with the flow. And that's what's really been my sort of ethos for the last few months, is just stop being so hard on myself and just lighten up.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. We're all imperfect human beings. But
it's beautiful. That's brilliant.
Yeah. We're all doing our best here. You're doing your best. Not you, but I mean everybody, and I include myself in that. So what then? I suppose I kind of have a good idea, or people have a good idea. But what would you define, I suppose, health to you?
That's good question. No, that is a good question. So I think for me, like as you say, there's loads of layers of health. For me, I suppose it's about balancing. So balance and flow would be my two words that come in when you say what is health. And to be in good health means you have to be in good mental health and in good physical health, as we said earlier. So I think for me, health is balancing the two, but also being aware that we all go through phases of life where we will not feel happy, we will feel depressed, we may lose many loved ones. And to be okay with that is part of life. You can't avoid it. You cannot avoid that. It's going with the flow. And I suppose a lot of my work perhaps is allowing people to feel those emotions, but letting them go, not letting them manifest into a physical issue, which is what happens if you don't acknowledge what's happened. So if you lose someone you love, and you, like you said, sometimes we've been conditioned to not show our emotions, and men, this is a huge thing for them, you know, that they're not allowed to show that they have lost someone. They're not allowed to feel that, and if they don't, it comes out in a physical form every time. You know this. I mean, as therapists, we see it in our clinics every single day. So it's about allowing people to be their authentic selves, to realize that you cannot be, like you said at the beginning, you can't, life doesn't become perfect. You have an ebb and flow. You have shite that happens, and you deal with it, and then you let it go. You don't hold on. So you don't hold on to resentment. You don't hold on to grudges. And I'm trying to teach people that. And the only way, I think, is that people learn to love themselves. And I know that sounds, but it has to come from within. And as therapists, we have to be comfortable with who we are, and then good health blossoms for people, because if they're feeling physically great and mentally great, then the health is there. It's absolutely beautiful. But I do believe the connection to nature has a massive fundamental, massively positive effect on all our health: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. All of those, it really does tie in. If you can ground yourself into the earth, health really does tend to, you know, become hugely beautiful experience rather than being stuck in the physical health side of things. Does that make sense, or am I talking?
Absolutely. I suppose what I'd like to add in that is, and again, I would see health as a spectrum, but sometimes people come to see me and they're blaming themselves because they're sick, and it's not about that. Okay, so you've lived your life, you know, you've lived your life the way you've lived your life.
Yeah.
No point in judging yourself, or I should have, or I could have, or I would have, or, you know,
there's no point.
You know, it doesn't matter. Here you are right now, and let's start here. And it doesn't matter. You know, I've had health issues. I don't sit here, and I would have in the past. You would have said, "Oh, if you had done that." I don't do that now, because it's not what it's about. It's about, why am I here? What do I want in my life? And how do I go about getting it? And life, you know, and that's how it is. So so I suppose what I don't want anyone to think, and it's not what you were saying, I know it isn't, but just for anybody to interpret it that we are saying you caused this. It's not what we're saying at all.
Oh no, not at all. No, and I think totally, you can't change the past either. So it's happened. Exactly. But you can change being here and now, you know, and that's definitely something that's very important for people to realize, that you have the ability in you to change where you're at if you want to. If you want to, I believe that.
Yeah, and I think that. I love that. Yeah, saying you have the ability 100%, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and you know what I found that I loved doing this when I'm going online and interacting with people, is the meditation work, that a lot of people would never ever have tried meditation because A, they didn't have time, B, they thought, they had a misconception that it was something totally different than it is. But meditation, for anybody, no matter how old they are, who they are, it has a profoundly positive effect on not only their mental health, but all the spectrum of their health. And I think it's really worth, if someone's listening, they've never tried it, it's finding the right one. It's like a recipe. You've got to find the right ingredients. So it's whichever way you want to try it. And I threw up quite a lot of meditation videos up in the woods during early lockdown. If you saw me, I mean, oh my God. But I really felt drawn to do that because it was very healing and people loved it. And the positivity, the people that had never tried that before, and suddenly they were coming back to me saying, I slept all night, I'm seeing colors, I'm opening up. And that's what I think as therapists, it's just absolute diamonds when they can do that, I think.
You know, I was just checking the time there, and we could talk forever, and I know we're just getting warmed up here. But maybe we can come back and do another interview in a few months' time and see how the farm is going and what you're up to and things like that, because I would love that. I can't even ask you, grant you a wish. Well, actually, I can. Just a really quick wish. You can have a wish. What would it be?
Good question. Oh God, now you're throwing
you now, not for anyone else.
Obviously, the lotto numbers would be fabulous, please, because I want a bigger farm. No, I think, do you know what? For me, but it's for everybody. I know I'm going to sound like I'm on what's it called? That
World or something.
Beauty Miss World, yeah. But if we all learn to love ourselves truly, this whole world, I'm telling you, would be an incredible place to be, because it comes from within. And if you can learn to love yourself, anything can happen. So that's a wish. Yeah,
unconditional love. They just love
ourselves first and then others. And I think learning that it's okay to really look after yourself for who you are, you know. So that's my Miss World answer to you.
Absolutely. Sorry, I slightly butted in there.
So you're right.
Thank you so much, Katie. Where can people find you on social media and or website or anything like that? Can you?
I'm all over the place, actually. You can find me on Clonmel Acupuncture, Katie Murphy on Facebook, and that's one I'm really engaging in a lot with people. On Instagram, same, Katie Murphy Clonmel Acupuncture. I've also got the 3 Elements of Healing, which is my shop page, which has everything on it. YouTube, Clonmel Acupuncture, Katie Murphy. Those are my things. I'm doing a lot more corporate work going forward, so that's in different companies. And Heartwise is another one that's going to be on, which is really exciting for anyone over 65, so that'll be free. So there's lots of free stuff up there, so have a look and check me out. And it's the website's clonmelacupuncture.com, so it's very easy. So
excellent. Thank you so much. We'll pop all those links in after the interview, but we're going to say goodbye to Facebook right now. So bye, Facebook.
Bye, Jay. Bye.
Okay, and I'm going to hit stop record.